Mm. I love how you talk about kind of your movement and kind of the freedom that you had once you um, took Genesis and those creation accounts as not science, but looking at it in a different way. The freedom that that brought you. Can you talk about some of the beauty, maybe now that you can see, maybe in the Genesis one story of creation, when we're not looking at Genesis one as a scientific text, but as a text that someone wrote and how they want to explain the creation of the
Mhm.
world, and maybe some of the beauty, poetry, allegory that now that when you read Genesis 1 personally, the things that you see.
Yeah. Well, um, the echoes of the Enuma Elish that are present in Psalm 74, 89, or Isaiah 51, those kinds of texts, I argue that those are also present in Genesis 1. That the basic form of the Babylonian creation text is a text that's echoed in Genesis 1 as well. Like the Babylonian text, it starts off with these primordial waters. The word that's used in Genesis 1 verse 2 for the deep is the word tahom. Well, tahom is just a Hebrew cognate of that word tiamat, which is the that dragon that represents the sea in Babylonian thought. Marduk suppresses Tiamat with his winds. It's the wind of God that suppresses the waters in Genesis 1 2. Marduk creates by splitting Tiamat's carcass. That's what God does in Genesis 1 on days 1, 2, and 3. He separates light from dark. He separates the waters from the water, separates the water from the land. So I think all of those echoes are there. The thing that's different, though, about Genesis 1 as opposed to, say, Psalm 74, Psalm 74 is almost just a duplicate of Enuma Elish. Genesis 1 is more like an echo. It's a kind of allusion over to it that says, Babylon, I'm talking to you. I want you to know that I'm aware of how you do creation. Now let me show you how a real God does creation. And it's in the differences in the portrayal of God between Genesis 1 and the Enuma Elish that I think the real beauty of the text emerges. In Genesis 1, there is one God and only one God. In Babylon, you can't swing a cat without hitting a god. I mean, they're all over the place, and Marduk's having to scratch and claw to get himself to the top of the pantheon. Not in Genesis 1, just in the beginning, God. Not only is there just one God, but it's the manner in which God creates. In Genesis 1, it's so effortless. He just says, be, and creation flies to obey his will. In the story in Babylon, you got Marduk getting a bow and arrow and the wind and the net, and he's having to capture Tiamat and shoot her in the heart and cut her open like she's a dried fish that you're splitting in half. This is not the God of Genesis 1. This is a God who just effortlessly says be, and everything happens the way he wants it to. And there's a strong polemical element in Genesis 1 that emerges, especially when you think about, for example, the lights of creation. So if you think about day one, when God says, let there be light, and there was light, he called the light day, and the darkness he called night. None of this makes sense from a scientific perspective. That suddenly we just have these random photons that are there, and you put the dark tons over on one side of the universe and the light tons over on this side. None of this makes sense. And what does it mean for there to be light? I'm sorry, for there to be day and night, evening and morning, when you don't have the sun and the moon and so forth? Well, the reason the text is doing this, it creates light and doesn't get around to the sun, moon, and stars until day 4, because the sun, moon, and stars were Babylonian deities. This is the way Genesis 1 says, yeah, I'll get to you guys when I get to you. You're just not that big a deal. I can create light, and I don't need you to do it. When he does finally create them on day 4, he doesn't even dignify the sun and the moon, who were important deities in Babylon. The sun is Shamash, the god of justice. Sin is the moon god. He's the god of fishing and dairy farming. He doesn't even call them by name. He just says, yeah, the big light and the little light. And the best part of the whole thing is when you get to the end of verse 16, it just says, and the stars. Every star that one of these ancient people could have seen up in the sky, a sky free of pollution, a sky with no light pollution. They saw this ocean of stars over their heads, this Milky Way of stars. And they looked at it, and God, in one word in Hebrew, kokavim, says, stars, whatever. This is a portrayal of a kind of deity that is on a different level than what the Babylonians were worshiping. If you sort of put it into modern terms, it would be as if you are someone saying to the Babylonians, you guys are worshiping Batman. Let me show you what a real God is like. You don't even have you guys don't even have like a Superman. You've got Aquaman is about as much as you've got. This is what a real God looks like. And it's no surprise that that vision of God became so compelling, so that half the world today worships this monotheistic God that's presented in Genesis 1, whether you're talking about Christianity or Judaism or Islam, whereas nobody, until Reddit came about on the internet, worshipped Marduk. It had all disappeared.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video clip from the Delgado Podcast. To get more videos just like this, simply subscribe here on YouTube. Take care.